Greetings. Happy Friday as I'm streaming this. Welcome. Another chapter. Gosh, what are we on now? Episode 58, 59, 58, something like that. OSR Reddit Roundup. I don't have any programming notes. It's Friday. All seems to be pretty well with the world. We've all tested negative for COVID, so we're through that little thing. So it's on to bigger and better. Let's just get right down to it. Terrence says, the horns signal our call to battle. Indeed, Terrence, indeed. All right. A few things I just was staring at this for a couple of minutes as the countdown was playing, and there were definitely some things that caught my attention. Not sure where to start, actually. But I guess we can start with this one here. Sleeping in dungeons is hard. Mechanizing rest and recovery from our old friends at the Rise Up Comus blog. Where's my glasses? Oh, here we go. All right. Afraid I forgot them in another room. This was posted today, which is Friday, August 26, 2022. Rest interrupted. This post is brought to you by insomnia. Yes, insomnia. With insomnia, you can feel bad all day. Try it whether you want to or not. If you've ever gone camping, you know how different it is to sleep on the ground versus sleeping in your bed. The point of these rules is to create more interesting equipment choices. By mechanizing things like bedrolls, tents, and blankets, you are more inclined to not fill up every single equipment slot with lard. Lard? I suppose. Fry Guys, the game. When you rest in your own bed or in a safe haven, you recover all of your hit points. When you are sleeping hard in the dungeon or Wilderland, use these rules. Each night you sleep while camping, roll a die to see how much hit points you recover. The size of the die you roll is determined by how safe and comfortable you are. The dice chain is D0 to D2 to D4 to D6 to D8 to D10 to D12 to 3D4. Start at D2. Boons. For every item on this list you can answer yes to, increase your die type by one step. Bedroll, roof overhead, tent or otherwise, fire, shared booze, hot meal, had sex. Not that the had sex is bad necessarily, but you know what? I don't want to get, maybe we just had bad. I'm trying to avoid those kind of horrible games, but I just don't even want to bring that stuff into the game. I don't want to be working out that part of the equation, but thanks. And then on the opposite side, we have Banes. For every item on this list you can answer yes to, decrease your die type by one step. Precipitation, cold, hungry, sick, bugs can be negated with bug netting, evil environment, dungeon, swampsville, omen, etc. Combat encounter at night, decrease die by 2 steps. Nocturnal manifestations. Put an event called Nocturnal Manifestation on your meat grinder table / overloaded encounter die. If you roll this die during the night's watch, roll again on the following table and randomly determine the target. 1. Pet pest. One of your animal companions or familiars crawls onto you at night. They are trying to get warm, but keep stepping on your face and kneading their claws into your breasts. You are desperate to not disturb them and hold yourself perfectly still, despite being terribly uncomfortable. Roll your recovery die twice and take the lower result. I know I've definitely had that with my cats, in terms of taking up much more space in the bed than their size would suggest, and making me uncomfortable. But for whatever reason, I don't want to rouse them, even though they're rousing me in the night. So I can sympathize with that. 2 is a snoring bedmate. The person sleeping nearest you is sawing logs all night. Decrease your recovery die by 1 step or choose to wake them up. They decrease their recovery die by 1 step instead. 3, the old campaigner's complaint. You have dysentery. You spend your night squatting, guts roiling, reduce your recovery die by 2 steps. And then finally, a sleep paralysis imp. A terrible demon manifests and sits on your chest, smothering you. It's absolutely terrifying. You recover zilch. Aaron says, man, I would hate to roll a 1 on my D20 rest roll. So I'm of mixed minds. I think this stuff is cool. And I have incorporated this stuff into my game somewhat, not in this manner. I'm of the opinion that as players, you are constantly at the mercy of the dice for a variety of things. So for some things like rest, I'm okay with foregoing that randomness. It doesn't all have to be random chance. I do appreciate the Banes, and so in my system, it's very simple right now, which is essentially you get 1 for resting through the night with a fire. You have to have a fire. So if no fire, you get no points. even if it's hot, it's that idea of protection, just that feeling of being in a small, secure place, and the fire kind of symbolizes that. So even if it's summertime and you don't need it for heat, it's just part of that element that says you're somewhere safe to your psyche. Call it. It's reading into your very core of your being. That fire, like the hearth, kind of symbolizes safety. So you need to have that symbol of safety to heal. And then I think I do something like, okay, if you have had a meal, a hot meal, I think I've added one. And then I have something else if you spend the whole rest of the day. But I'll basically add points. Okay, one for getting that rest in. Okay, oh, you've got a hot meal, boom, I'll say you get two. If you do this, I'll say you get three. I'm fine doing that. And I'm fine, not that I've done this, but I'm absolutely fine saying in the inverse, okay, it's raining, you're cold, you're hungry, you haven't eaten, so these things then wear away at it. So if you've done these things and now you're up to 3 hit points overnight, but these other things work against you, I'm fine with that. I don't know if I need to be just rolling on the dice. I don't know if I need that swinginess. I don't know what it adds to it. And I think as players, why not just give yourself some controls, right? And just add up all the good stuff. Say, hey, these will all give you points, and then these will all take away points. If you end up at 0, fine. You could even go so far as to say if you end up at a negative, you're going to lose a hit point. So if you're cold, it's raining, you're hungry, and you're sick, and you haven't done any of these, you have no bedroll, you have no roof, you have no fire, maybe you lose a few hit points. Maybe not that it would kill you necessarily, though you could go that way too. So I like this in general, but I would go without the dice. Pete Giant says hello, Pete Giant. Terrence says I kind of like it, but I would make it a progressive number of D4s. Yeah, you could do that too. And the nocturnal manifestations are fine. There's a lot of this stuff that's and the Rise of Comus blog puts up a lot of great stuff, but I almost think that as a game master, you kind of have to pick and choose where you want your energy to go. And it reminds me a little bit, if you were to take all these little subsystems that them and other people put together, which individually I think are fun, they can be additive, and they have a little element that I like. I think you have to be careful, because if you add them all in there, the game just turns into a slog. And I mentioned this before when I was playing a game. I think it took place, I want to say, was it a Troika game? No, it wasn't Troika. Was it Into the Odd? I think we were playing in Bastion Land, and just like everything was something. And I think this was looked at by the GM as like, oh, this is great. Everything is something. But for me, I got really irritated by it because I didn't want everything to be something. I don't want everything to be this. Like, I want the stuff, like, I want to concentrate on the stuff that I'm here for. I want to concentrate on where the fun is and not on this other stuff. So just be aware when you start adding all this together. You think, oh, this is great. I'm going to have resting is going to be a thing. Oh, this is going to be a thing. That's going to be a thing. You can have too many things. You can have way too many things, and that can be frustrating maybe not as a GM, because you see everything as being kind of additive, the experience, or making all these choices. But you can't have every choice. I don't think you want every choice to be super meaningful. Otherwise, you end up this kind of analysis paralysis. So your players are carting around all this stuff. Oh, we got to bring booze, we got to bring a tent, we got to bring all stuff. So they don't even have room for loot, because they're worried about the rest situation, because I got to carry bug nets and all this stuff. And yeah, there's a certain amount of interest with that, and that's fine. But then maybe you have another system after that and another system, and it just can be too much. So just be cognizant of the fact that on these blogs and everything, we read all these wonderful systems, but I really question if any of them run all these systems in their games, what it's like. Because my experience with running a lot of the stuff where this kind of everything is a thing was, yeah, I didn't like it. I wanted the adventure stuff to be the thing, and not a lot of this stuff that was just kind of incidental to the adventure. Hey, Gashrin, welcome. So I'm curious to see what the comments are, if there are any. The Post Moogle says, oh, wait a minute, I didn't upvote. Post Moogle says, setting aside the can of worms of asking my players if their characters have sex, this answers a question I've had outstanding for a while and look forward to putting to good use. I didn't say what question that was, but I'll give them a vote. Ben_L2 says they love the rules. Generally, the mechanic could maybe also generalize to other kinds of exploration, like wilderness travel. Sure. Gabriel MP_19 says they would never use the have sex rule with their players. They shared the article, and in a very short time frame, his players already came back with the following ideas: hire prostitutes and take them to the dungeon, hire a single prostitute and share because it's cheaper, Be a polyamorous group and all have sex with each other, so it's free. Just be a necrophile and find bodies in the dungeon. Gross. And that's where we stopped. Yeah. I just don't, just things that I just don't want to deal with in my game. And no shade on folks who want to explore that part of roleplay. I don't. So yeah, as soon as I saw that on the list, I'm like, yeah, that's not making it onto my list. What do we have next? We've got the Spears of the Northmen, an adventure for worlds without numbers. Sure. This is posted to the Thief of Whispers blog on WordPress, thiefofwhispers.wordpress.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is my entry for Prince of Nothing's second contest, No Art Punk 2. They competed in one of these contests a while ago with Tomb of the Sorcerer and the revised version and had a ton of fun doing it. While I didn't win last time, the guys who did are awesome, and you can get all of those stellar adventures here. I want to do like I did last time and still post this one both as a taste of what is to come. Taste. And as Prince was kind enough to extend the deadline, maybe galvanize a few of you wonderful people to submit an entry. Anyways, I hope you enjoy the adventure. All right, let's take a look. Download this. All right. Let's bump it up a bit. There we go. Giant says, going back to the sex question, I think just describe a montage of fireworks and trains going in tunnels. That's as far as it's ever gone in my games. Yeah, I do something similar. Or more like, you imagine it however you imagine it. We're just going to star wipe to the next element. Yeah, just not interested. And I don't know. I guess it takes a special group to want to, because even if me as the player, I'm into it, and maybe even me as the GM, for some reason, I'm into it. You got 3, 4, 5, however many other people in there. Hard to think that they're all interested in that. And what are they all doing? Trying not to look uncomfortable, I guess, or again, maybe the right group. It works. I don't know. I've never seen it, and it's just not something I'm interested in exploring. Spears of the Northmen, a module using the Worlds Without Number system for 3 to 5 characters of 3rd to 4th level. Background: in vengeance for the death of his sons lost in battle against the Southerners, Connell Redhand, leader of the Crow Brother tribe, has journeyed down to the place of dead roads, the last stop before hell, and called up the spirits of the malevolent dead in return for half his soul and awoken a sleeping god. Hold on a minute. Called up the spirits of the malevolent dead in return for half his soul, I guess, and awakened a sleeping demon god, offering it fresh souls in exchange for vengeance. All right, it's kind of complicated, but all right. So he went down there, he called up the spirits of the dead, and then also, I guess it's a separate action. Once he's paid half his soul for calling up those spirits, he then awoke a sleeping god and offered it fresh souls. Are those the souls that he just summoned? Not sure. Maybe it doesn't matter. In any case, Crow Brother warriors, bolstered by the dark magics of the demon below, have been stalking the land, carrying off supplies and people to sacrifice in obscene rituals to free the demon, Carnunos, from its prison. Without the intervention of heroes, it's only a matter of time before the demon is freed and leads the Crow Brother tribe in even greater slaughter. Okay, so the upshot is basically that to avenge his dead sons, this guy has awakened a sleeping demon, and started to sacrifice people to it to free the demon, to, I guess, go on some kind of unholy rampage of vengeance. Yep, so that sounds pretty much like a thing. This adventure should be able to be placed in a campaign world with little issue, ideally somewhere in a cold and northern climate with tribal warriors and swaths of wild forest interspersed by small points of civilization. Clarence says only half his soul? Good deal, I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a little bit confusing. He calls out the spirits of malevolent dead for half his soul. But that doesn't seem to really, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter, it's just in the background, but that part doesn't seem to have anything to do with anything afterwards. It's like that. I don't know. Why not just say he went down and awoke a sleeping demon god? I'm not sure. Maybe it'll come into it later with some of the abilities that these Crow Brother warriors have. It's a weird wrinkle, because at least at first glance at this point, it doesn't really, it's not editing. It's like this extra detail just kind of hangs off of it. like a proverbial Chad, and yeah, it doesn't seem to enter into things. But we'll see. So we got some hooks. The tax from the village of Krom in northern Volsung have been absent, and messengers sent to ascertain what happened have not returned. The party has been sent to find out what happened, and if possible, recover the missing tribute of 1,000 silver pieces in goods in return for 250 silver pieces and the favor of the local lord, Hrolf Grimnir, whose forces are currently engaged in a territory dispute to the south. So that's one thing. So you could have been hired to find out what happened to the taxes and the messengers in the village of Krom, where they apparently they work on the riddle of steel over there in the village of Krom. Traveling north through the patchwork lands, the party stops off in the village of Krom and finds it suspiciously empty. The locals huddle together in fear of what lurks outside. Outside of what? That's another weird thing. So we find that it's empty, but there are people in there, so it's not actually empty. And the locals will huddle together in fear of what lurks outside. Outside the village, outside the buildings. It's a touch uncertain. PCs receive a missive in their dreams of some great evil stirring in the north, somewhere near the backwater village of Krom. And then finally, ooh, it sounds like we get some thunder out there outside. As a reward for a quest, the party receives a map to ancient elven catacombs, which may contain great wealth and knowledge, but is said to contain a shard of the great darkness. The map is old and imprecise, only giving the general location of the tomb. Modern maps reveal the nearest settlement to be the village of Krom in the northern patchwork lands. All right, so everything is sending us, these hooks are all sending us for various reasons to the village of Krom. Now on to the village of Krom itself. It's a small village in the northern patchwork lands. Krom has managed to keep away from the near constant strife plaguing the rest of the country. With verdant fields, good fishing from the nearby river, and a rich forest, the village has managed to not only survive but prosper, paying tribute to Lord Grimnir in exchange for protection. With the winter, most of the villagers had taken shelter within their homes to wait out the cold. But as their neighbors began to disappear, they grew worried. After the first mutilated corpse was placed, the villagers fled toward the fortified longhouses near the town's center. Dozens of families packed tightly into each one as torches burn and chants of frenzied wild men echo through the night. Once nearly 120 villagers, their number has dwindled to 43, with some fled but many more dead, their bodies strung up in grotesque effigy along the tree line. The remaining villagers now huddle in the longhouses, fearful of the dark. I kind of think I would have liked the village stuff above the hooks because it would have made a couple of those make a little bit more sense. So we get just the layout here. I guess this is part of a no art thing, so I'm gonna imagine here that part of this is we get no art, which is actually fine with me. But I'm presuming that I haven't read the rules of the no art punk. I think is what this was part of, but maybe that art also extends to maps. So we're just gonna have to take a text. We have to just imagine the layout of the village from the text, and that layout is, and this is pink lemonade spindrift for the working man. The layout of the village is three large longhouses, originally used as communal larders and meeting places. The smithy and a handful of shops lie in the center of the village, all surrounded by a wooden barbican. Dozens of small cottages lie in the surrounding area, though by now all are abandoned, many burned or looted. Those that do stand have been painted with blasphemous symbols. A handful of nervous men and boys man the barbican at all times and draw bows on the party until they see they are not wild men. And then we have NPCs. The Reeve, Snorri Sturluson. I'm not going to read all of this, but he will offer money in exchange for the scalps of wild men. I might not do scalps. Maybe I do something else, but I can understand this person's hatred for the wild men, but maybe I would just do that a little bit differently. Maybe any proof of dead wild men, perhaps. I suppose you just say, bring me their heads, but at least the bringing of heads doesn't have a particular cultural significance to anybody. At least not that I'm aware of. So you get the Reeve. We have the blacksmith, Cormac Mercada, a local priest, Brother Albrecht Eriksson, a traveling merchant, Leila Telaku, and some kids. Events and issues. When the party first arrives at Krom, a timer should start. Connell Redhand and his followers are not idle, working steadily to break the binding that holds the demon in place. By torturing prisoners and terrorizing the populace, the demon grows stronger, eventually enough to break the binding. The party can combat this by defeating the minions of the demon. Each day they kill or drive off a band of Crow Brothers do not advance the timer. For each night the party remains in the village, roll a d6. On a 1, the village is attacked by 1d6 plus 5 Crow Brothers who will attempt to carry off 1d4 villagers. If they are successful, the timer advances an additional day. If 8 days have passed, the binding has weakened enough for the demon to lend its power to the warriors, granting a +1 to attack, damage, and morale for all members of the Crow Brother tribe. At 12 days, all remaining Crow Brother warriors have been transformed into ghouls and now make for the village in a full-on assault led by Conal and Kernanos. The demon's power will allow it to raise more dead warriors, such that by the time they arrive, they will have an army of nearly 60 ghouls to ravage and raise the village. If not stopped here, the demon's forces will begin to grow with more ghouls added to the horde as Kernanos regains its full power. See the epilogue for more details. So the one thing I would do here, so one, I like this. I like the idea of the timer. I like the idea that these things are happening. I not so much care for the fact that the only ways to hold back the timer are by driving off, basically by combat. I'd like to see some other things. What else can you do? Can you do things like rescue the villagers? Maybe have some setup of where they're gathering villagers. We don't have a sense, or we haven't given a sense yet, what the path is that the demons, that these Crow Brothers take from wherever they are in that weird quasi mystical place near the border of hell and this village. How did they get there? Where are they moving people? Could we do things? Could a party try to systematically make things difficult for the Crow Brothers without just going into combat? Could they try to rescue villagers? Could they try to bar the Crow Brothers from getting down to that, whatever that area is called, where they're doing the ritual? Could they use some, are there any spells that they could do to help them? Are there any other NPCs around here? Maybe there's some wild woman in the woods. I'm reminded here of the kind of the 13th Warrior, where the village is under attack, and there are various things they can do, but there's the kind of the old, first there's, okay, they take on the initial assault, and great, but now then they come back in force. They're able to hold that off, but now, Bullvice hurt, and they have a couple of discoveries. They kind of make one discovery where they go check out a farmhouse that was deserted. They find the bodies, but they get a clue of who these people are. Then at one point they go to this kind of like a witch sort of woman who's out there, out in the kind of wilderness, and they get some other clues of what they need to do. Then there's the element of them sneaking in and trying to basically cut off the head of the snake. Basically, in this case, it would be, could they sneak in and just try to take out Conal and do it that way? And then, of course, there's the last, then they have to take on the last thing. So yes, in that movie, there's a lot of combat, to be fair. But my point is, it'd be nice to build in some other things. Could they just take out Conal? Why, could there be a note about, hey, if you could sneak in there and get Conal, you may be able to do this. If you can prevent the Crow Brothers from getting back to this place, you could do this. If you could just simply rescue the villagers, you could do this. Maybe there's someone out in the wilderness who could give you some interesting clues to kind of help do something. Just some more fodder for creative solutions other than we just got to take out Crow Brothers for so many days, or work our way down the Crow Brother chain till we get to the ritual space. But let's see. We still have more to read. In the forest, much of the land surrounding the village is lightly forested. 2 miles per hour of travel is a lightly forested area of woods to the north, with a small area of hills and a bog. I have to say, I do like the formatting here and telling us the travel rates. All manner of strange things lurk within the darkened boughs. Weather and travel. Set in the winter months, the lands around Crom are chilly but bearable during the day, but can become frigid at night, with sudden storms blowing through but only lasting for a few hours. The nights are considered harsh and will cause 1, system strain without shelter or fire, or 2, if a party member does not have warm clothing or other magical protections. I'm guessing system strain is a worlds without number thing. It is recommended that GM use the maiming rules on page 161 of Atlas of the Latter Earth. Rolling for a maiming wound if a player reaches maximum system strain from cold to represent frostbite, as each hex is only 2 miles. Fully exploring a hex requires 4 hours of dedicated searching. Warm clothing costs 50 silver pieces and in 1 encumbrance, but does help protect from the worst of the cold. These are some nice touches. We do get a random encounter table that we're rolling every 4 hours. It's a 1d8. On a 1, you roll for encounter. On a 1 for an encounter, roll 1d12. If the party has a firelit, roll 1d4 to check for encounters. So what's the difference between 1 and the 1d12 and 1d4? So the 1 is a raiding party of Crow Brother warriors. Let's see, and there's this. Due to being painted with the black woad, the wild men can see in darkness up to 60 feet. Crow Brothers will always attempt an ambush, picking up members of the party one at a time, especially under cover of darkness. That's creepy and good. So it's a raiding party of Crow Brothers, hungry wolves, large angry boars, or rapidly developing storm. So if you have a fire lit, those are the only ones that come. I don't know why a storm is more likely if you have a fire, or the angry boars, or even the hungry wolves. I understand the raiding party. That makes total sense. They're going to come to the fire because they're looking for people to sacrifice. They see a fire, people, go get it. The wolves and the boars, I would think they would stay away from the fire, and that might be actually a good deterrent. That makes more sense to me than it being more likely. And then the storm. Because basically, if you have a fire lit, there's a 25% chance of there being a storm, which just doesn't. I don't know. Maybe there's a different way to work the table. Because I get that they want to have that be an option, whether you have a fire or not. But I don't know. I thought there's probably a better. I imagine there may be a better way to do that, but it's a small matter. 5 heavy snowfall, 6 light snowfall, 7 a mutilated corpse nailed to a tree. Figures appear to be moving in the trees. An old trail of blood leads away. The party hears the sound of a crying child. After a few seconds, the wailing is abruptly cut short with a loud thunk sound. Oh, that's nice. Or one PC hears a horrid cacophonous roar, and then or you roll a couple and combine. Some of these are interesting because they're things that you would like. I almost don't think that this fits. So I guess the thing is that it's interesting, right? If you're on the move, all of these make sense. But if you're camping and you're rolling, I suppose you could just say, well, you didn't notice it before, but there happens to be an old trail of blood leading away. Okay. I think as a party member, I might be like, well, wouldn't I have noticed that? I mean, we're kind of, we make an attempt to find a camp. I don't know if I'd want to be camping where there's blood trails going through. Fair enough. Figures moving through the trees. That works because they're moving, so they could just be coming to you, theoretically. But the mutilated corpse hanging to a tree, it's like I'm in the middle of my watch. Oh, you're in the second watch. Oh, you got an encounter. Oh, yeah, you find a mutilated corpse nailed to a tree. Wouldn't we have noticed that before? Yeah, maybe. Now, granted, I could just roll again. But, I almost think like have 3 of these. If you want to have one for having fire lit, great. Then maybe have one for camping as opposed to moving, because just a couple of those just don't quite make as much sense. Crow Brothers. Crow Brother warriors wear mismatched armor of boiled leather and rough stitched hide, bearing spears and throwing axes, adorning themselves with bone fetishes and runic medallions. The Crow Brothers cover themselves in woad that is so dark it's almost black, adding to their feral, brutish appearance. We get some more things. Now we get some locations. And then basically, well, one note about the Crow Brothers, if the party is at the adventure for more than 10 days, they get replaced with ghouls. So we have some locations: Men Here Standing Stones, a Spider Grove. It's got some stuff in there. This stretch of forest is home to More Ederkop, a massive intelligent spider, and her smaller offspring. And it looks like there is some stuff. There's a gem of brightness. And we get some more Ederkop, the intelligent sword spider. 6 large spiders and 3 spider swarms. There's a troll den with an aged troll. A 2-headed troll called Gerod. Gerud. And he's got some stuff. He does know some things about the area, including the couple of camps. Crow Brothers Camp, the Deserters Camp, the Barrow Mounds, and the Frozen Bog. There's a Wizard's Hut. Wizard Fjolnir. Let's see. He's got some stuff here. The home of the Wizard Fjolnir is at first glance a humble affair, a ramshackle cottage that seems worn but sturdy, with steady smoke billowing from the chimney, all beneath a massive yew tree. Old, unkempt, and constantly muttering to himself, the Wizard Fjolnir has one eye covered by an eye patch and dentures made of iron. Oh my gosh. Suspicious at first, if the party comes in peace, Fjolnir will offer to trade magic and information in exchange for favors and treasure. Fjolnir has 1d4 calyxes, that is scrolls, for sale, all of first level, costing 300 silver for each. If the party asks him about stopping the wild men, he invites them in to tell them his plan. Fjolnir will tell the party he's been divining the cause of the Crow Brothers' strength for a while, and that they are driven by a demon. If they help him gather the materials for a ritual, he can banish the demon. He is lying and plans to bind the demon to his own purposes. For the ritual, he needs the lifeblood of a fae, a branch from one of the Green Man's favored, and the bones of an ancestor. For the blood, he tells the party where the daughter of Mother Raven is waiting, which is in Area J, as well as a ritual to call her up if they have already encountered her peacefully, though any lost companions still remain lost. We don't know what that means yet, but there you go. They've already driven her off, and then the Witchlights, the Will-O-Wisps in Area G, could work in a pinch, but both must be slain and their fluids drained. The branch can be taken from the Green Man's favored, which is a tree in Area I, but will likely be met with resistance as its roots are watered in blood. As to the bones of an ancestor, they can be found in the Barrow Mounds, which are in Area E. The deeper the better, but he warns that the dead are loath to give up what is theirs. The ones he wants are special rune-inscribed bones of an ancient king that once ruled these forests. If these can be acquired, Fjolnir assures that it will make a powerful weapon that will banish the demon to the void. However, Fjolnir's ritual is flawed. While the ritual will bind the demon, it will let the beast of the outer dark possess him. Who's the beast of the outer dark? As a token of good faith, the wizard will tell the party of a treasure that will banish the darkness and allow the party to penetrate the temple where the demon is held. He does warn that the Spider Mother holds it and may refuse to part with it. Should he be attacked, Fjolnir has several defenses and remains a powerful wizard, summoning skeleton warriors from the earth to defend his home. Let's see. Pete Giant says that they prefer a D6 for random encounters. You can spend more creative juice on each than usually split into 1 to 3, 4, 5, and 6, with 6 being a deadly encounter for the area and 1 to 3 being expected. Yeah, that's not a bad way of doing it. Pete Giant, this sort of content rubs me the wrong way a little bit because I like the reaction rolls so much. Yes, I do like reaction rolls too. So this one, though, it's kind of, you could easily update, say, Fjolnir the Wizard to utilize some reaction rolls if you want to. What the thing is about it that I haven't seen yet is I don't know how all these areas work together. We don't have a sense of, it's just like, hey, we had the forest, we had the hills, but we don't know, like the having something here where before we got into the forest where it says here's forest, here's hills, here's whatever, and here's the different areas that are basically in it. Granted, we don't have the map, or we're not getting a map because of the nature of this game jam, which is fine, but you could still give us oh, hey, in the forest are these A, B, and C. In the hills are D, E, and F, and in the bog is G, H, I. Something like that to kind of set them up. I also didn't see where anybody is going to be able to tell the party about Fjolnir, which seems like the one that you really want to visit. Like that to me would be, we'll set our course for Fjolnir, much like that, like I mentioned, the 13th Warrior, where they're told, oh, hey, this person might know something, you better go visit them. And again, read it through as a GM. I can go back and say somebody in the camp in the Longhouse is going to mention, oh, yeah, you should probably go visit Fjolnir, but it would be nice to kind of know. And then if they were going to say where Fjolnir is, I suppose before I run this, I'd have to prep out where everything is. But it would be nice to kind of have a sense of where the stuff is in our minds. Or is the expectation with these letters that this is kind of the order that the party will bump into things? I don't know. So we have some Barrow Mounds that have some whites. We have some treasure. I do like the fact that Fjolnir has his own goals that are separate. I don't know what this means. If his ritual's flawed, so the beast of the outer dark will possess him. I don't know what that means. It's unclear. I don't know if that refers to something in the Worlds Without Number kind of implied, it's just sort of generic setting, or what. But that could probably be made a little bit more clear. So let's see, we have barrel mounds that have whites in it. We have treasure. There's a +1 male halberg. There's a horn. It's Mimir's horn and will reveal secret knowledge if water from the spring is drank from it. Water from area H. There's a deserters camp, which has deserters from the Crow Brother tribe. There are wild men in there. And this is the one where I'd probably use reaction rolls to see how these deserters are. Though they're going to be, I'd give a bonus to the reaction rolls because they are, presuming they are true deserters, which it seems like from the Crow Brothers, they're going to be, I think, naturally looking to ally with anybody who's anti the Crow Brothers, which is pretty much everybody. We have a frozen bog. It's got some will-o-wisps. And there's some treasure you can get from the bottom of the bog. There's Mimir's spring. Let's see. So something here. Hold on a minute. So I'll read the spring one. Mimir's spring, a placid spring in the middle of a clearing sitting before a large rock resembling a giant face. Those looking during the day can make a stone symbol of an eye at the bottom of the spring. Runes in a dead language scrawled near the mouth of the giant face say a sacrifice for knowledge for those with the ability to read it. The character who can cast spells plucks an eye out and throws it in the water. They will instantly gain knowledge of any spell of their choice up to their maximum level they are able to cast. Those who lose an eye have a permanent -4 to ranged hit rolls. Any player who drinks from the waters using the drinking horn found in the barrel mounts can ask the GM one piece of information about the campaign world or the current adventure, which they must answer truthfully. Player can only benefit from this once. Additionally, if the party has spoken to the wizard Fjolnir and has agreed to help him with this ritual, will realize that the ritual is flawed in some way, but not to what extent. Hold on a second, got a cough coming on. Okay. So this I like, but I don't understand why just showing up at the spring would tell them the ritual is flawed. Is it if they drink the waters from the horn? Like, what is it? I get that they need to. I get that as the adventurer, you want to clue the party into the fact that, hey, his ritual is flawed. That's the kind of thing that I might say, hey, if you've got a magic user or somebody that they can try to suss it out, or if they think about it or they ponder it, maybe there's somebody in the town that they could go back to. Maybe there's someone else in the woods. They could, maybe the intelligent spider would know if they go back and talk to them. And then it becomes kind of who the party wants to believe. There's probably a more interesting, better way to reveal that, oh, hey, Fjolnir's plan might not be all that's cracked up to be without it just magically coming to you because you're at the spring. So I would probably want to change that slightly. A PC who spends their question on the proper way to fix the ritual will know that the ingredients must be prepared and purified in a sacred place, the Menhir stones, with a piece of pure light, the gem of brightness. If the party can combine those items in a ritual, it will create a totem that, if broken on the altar within the catacombs where the demon lies imprisoned, it will send it back to the void in a brilliant flash of light, ending the effects of the black woad and turning the named men back. I think they mean wild men, back into humans if they still live. So there's a lot that you're depending on things to go right to figure out. So I like the idea. I've always liked these springs and all these special places, fountains and things where if you drink it, interesting things happen. I like the twist that you have to pluck out your eye and toss it in there, and you get the little clue about the eye being there. However, you're asking a lot for the party to do this potentially multiple times. And I say multiple because maybe the first time you run across the spring, you don't know to ask about, and this is again where that map or how these things come in, you may not know to ask. Well, one, you may not know to do this at all, which is fine, but then you're losing out on, we'll have to see what other solutions are out there. But this particular solution to the quest is incumbent upon somebody plucking their eye out, tossing it in here, and asking the right question. If you got here before the wizard and you figured out the eye stuff, you plucked it out, and then you asked a different question, and maybe if this is an adventure that you're tossing into a campaign, maybe you ask the question about some other part of your campaign or the world. I mean, it's a really great opportunity to ask a question about so much stuff, even about this, that maybe you don't know to ask the right question. Maybe you don't even know that there's the demon has happened yet. This might be the first place you get to. Maybe it's not clear to you as a party yet what's causing it. So maybe you even ask the question of, hey, what's causing it? Oh, yeah, it's this demon ritual. Great. But now you've plucked out one of your eyes. And that's -4 to your ranged attacks. Now you're asking somebody else in your party to pluck out their eye, take that same penalty to then ask the correct question. It's it's a potentially it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's not and I can foresee a lot of instances where potentially this doesn't either get asked at all, you don't end up in that grove, you come in a different thing. Like there's just a lot of ways in which this could kind of I feel like not turn out. And I don't know yet what other options there are, but I'm afraid that they're counting on people coming here asking the right thing. And if this is what you have to do, then we want to make sure that somebody somewhere can tell the players, oh yeah, this spring. It's Fjolnir, either it's the intelligent spider, maybe somebody at the camp, somebody who can clue the party into, oh yeah, in this a rumor, some rumors you might get, something that can clue them in, because otherwise it's a kind of a lot of puzzling to figure it out. Because even the eye in the water, a lot of times I might be thinking, do I open my eye under the water? What do I do? Like jumping to, I got to pluck out my eye and toss it in the water. It might be a stretch. Okay, so we get to Eye the Dead Grove. There's a treant here who we're supposed to get the branch. I do like that you could talk to all these people, presumably. Except let's see. Well, hold on. When the party enters the area, face twisted into a mask of rage will contort into view as the old man of the woods draws himself up to his full 18 feet of height, screaming in a bellow of rage. Attacks without mercy, animating trees to cut off ranged enemies. He'll pursue for about a mile if players run. Wow, a mile? But will then return to his grove. If the players come seeking a branch, there are a number of fallen ones around where he stands that would be suitable, but the old man of the woods will not bargain for it unless he is approached by an elf or fae who is unaccompanied by humans, and even then it will require some kind of charisma check or other and the promise of the heads of 10 humans. If they can deliver that, he'll grant them a suitable branch taken from his own body. A player can identify a suitable branch by a cursory glance with some other kind of check. I mean, one, it turns into combat. I suppose you could just kill the old man of the woods if you can manage it and take one. Pete Giant says maybe there was a drunken one-eyed guy at the tavern with a story. Yeah, maybe. I wonder what the one-eyed guy at the tavern's question was. I mean, Fjolnir, right, has one eye, which kind of hints that maybe he did something, but I don't know if that's quite enough. I feel like I want something stronger, or have multiple ways of getting that knowledge. Obviously the players can ask Fjolnir, but I don't remember seeing a note, though I didn't read everything about Fjolnir. Maybe I missed it. That Fjolnir might say that he got the knowledge from the spring. He might say, oh, this is how I got it. I lost my eye for knowledge. Beware the spring with the giant's head. I don't know, something. But it would be good to flesh that out a bit more. So I like that you can bargain with these guys. I don't necessarily like that it's combat right away, but again, you could replace that with your reaction roll. This is another one that is very dependent on something that you just can't count on. I don't really like things that are gated to specific kind of species class combinations, because you don't know what party you're going to get. What if you have a party that doesn't have an elf in it? So how are you going to get this part? It's just fight and kill. Maybe, I suppose, with the Fae, the Will-O-Wisps are Fae. Maybe you could convince the Will-O-Wisps to come in, but how do you know that, right? It would be nice to, I like that they kind of have these things in here that you're sort of hinting at these different approaches, but it would be nice. And maybe I'm asking too much. This is a game jam thing. It's a freebie. It's probably a draft that was done sort of quickly. And I'm looking at all this stuff that maybe would be your finishing touches. You would come back and add in there, but it'd be nice to, hey, add this in. Oh yeah, the Will-O-Wisps, if you ask them these certain questions, you could convince them potentially to come to the dead grove, this or that. Because I like that they sort of set up these different groups with kind of different wants and desires, and how you sort of need to appease different ones to get different things. But I'm wondering if this is going to go kind of over the heads or under it's not going to break the surface enough to register with people, and then you don't get a chance. A lot of parties, if they attacked and they're able to, if this guy comes out and just attacks you as the party, if you can't beat him, if you get a round in there and you're like, man, we're not hitting this guy for nothing, we have nothing, we'll run, okay, fine. But if you think you can take him, you're going to take him. So the idea that you would, when you first get there, then come back and do this other thing by, okay, we understand that we need to send an elf by themselves. Like, how are you going to know that? Why would you do that? You probably just go and say, we need to kill this thing. So let's kill it. So while I like the fact that if you can address it in different ways and help, it's one of those things that by the time you figure that out, you've probably killed the thing already. And if you ran off, maybe you're thinking, oh, we got to go get some more people and then come back and kill it. You're probably not thinking we can talk to it because it didn't show any ability to be talked to. It just attacked on sight. So what are you going to learn from that encounter is that it's going to attack on sight. Therefore, we need to either avoid it or kill it. And if we've gone to Fjolnir and figured out that we need that branch, and so we need to go get it, then we're just going to kill it. We're not going to try to figure out, like, oh, if we send an elf, then maybe we can do it differently. It's like, hey, you're probably not going to go that far unless there's somebody out there who's going to tell you, oh, yeah, he hates everybody but elves. Pete the Giant says we got, going back to what Pete the Giant said about the drunk one-eyed guy at the tavern. Maybe we can show a drunk one-eyed guy at the tavern that's also been beat up with branch marks, and he can both talk about the well and talk about the angry treant that will only talk to elves. That's also part of his story. Oh, here we go. Though here we have a Fey clearing. So maybe the Dryad could go and try to convince the Dryad. Wait, the Dryad's got some riddles, but why? Let's see. A beautiful woman with pale blonde hair cavorts in a clearing, singing sweetly at the base of a tree. She welcomes the party upon arrival and introduces herself as Moonlight on New Snow, a daughter of Mother Raven, then asks if they would like to play the riddle game. If they can answer 3 riddles of hers, she will give them a boon. If they can't, then she desires one for her company. The woman is a Dryad, and any who agree to the game and cannot answer 3 riddles automatically fail their saving throw against her charm effect. If more than one person has agreed to the contest, she chooses the one with the highest charisma. Once she has the PC charm, she steps behind a tree with them, disappearing into the Feywild for the next 3 years. If the party does not play the game but speaks respectively, she warns them to be wary of the dead grove, for their hatred of men runs deep. But the witchlights in the bog are boon companions and always cavort about. Should they win by answering all 3 riddles, she laughs and hands the party a key of the former house, telling them to come visit her summer home anytime. So they can get some information from the Fae, but it doesn't really tell them. It tells them be wary of the dead grove, for their hatred of men runs deep, but not that, oh yeah, but if I or a Fae or somebody else talks to them, it'll be okay. Tanner says they're getting some more board kind of vibes from this adventure's trappings. Is that good or bad for you, Terrence? I mean, I do like that it does have kind of a fairy, a northern Scandinavian kind of fairy vibe for sure. So the boon is the key of the former house. We do get the riddles, which is nice. I won't spoil them. We get a bear den. We get the Crow Brother camp. Oh, we get an order of battle for the Crow Brothers. And we get some notes on infiltration, which is good. So they've talking about other things that the party can do if they don't want to just fight them. Let's see. So we've got the entrance, we got the tent, we have the makeshift prison camp, we have the altar. Okay, so there is something called a named man. See, this came up in one of the other entries earlier on. I thought it was a typo because they hadn't mentioned named men, but now they mentioned them here. Maybe up front telling us that here are kind of our enemies and kind of some idea would have made me not think that I'd read a typo. And then we get to the catacombs, which is a massive barrow mound near the brothers' camp. And this is where Kernanos was imprisoned. And remember, because this is art free, so we don't get any map. We just get text. We have the entrance. It's impenetrably dark unless you expend 5 charges from the Gem of Brightness, or if you found the ritual words learned from the Ancient King in the Eastern Barrow, which works for an hour. Or if the party has a question to ask from Mimir's Spring, they may ask it to immediately earn the ritual words. A lot of people losing their eyes. Or they could use the tablets from Kanal's private stash and the spell Query the Dead to interrogate the dead in this room. Using the spell in this manner causes permanent strain and deals 46 damage with a mental save for half as the profane ritual drains out part of the mage's soul. Oosh. Pete Giant says it's good creative content, but seems to be presented in a way that's a bit of a railroad. It's hard to know, Pete Giant. I think the constraints of the no art, they haven't overcome it in a way that makes it seem, it really is difficult to know what is the spatial relationships of these places. So when you read it, yeah, it just reads like you go A, B, C, D down the line. I have a feeling, or at least if I were prepping this, I would take this document and I would create a hex map. They couldn't do it for the game jam. Doesn't mean that I have to put them all in a hallway. And then I would spread things out, situate things, knowing that I've got hills, forest, river, village, lay them out, put the places out there, and then go. So that's kind of how I do it. And maybe that's what this is one of those things that, again, it's free. I don't even know if it's the final draft. I mean, they did post it, so they did want to share it. But again, it could just be like, hey, I'm working on this. Look at it. But this is one of the things where it'd be nice to have, like, here's the prep. Before you do this, understand that because this is part of a no art jam, I don't have a map, but I don't mean for everything to be in a linear tunnel. What I mean is for in these areas, for this to be kind of lay things out. I think that's what they do. And if I were going to run this, that is what I would do. So I think that that one, they're dealing with that limitation of the fact that it's no art, so they can't do any maps. And then, but then on I guess B, they probably could do a little bit of a better job describing some of the spatial relationships and not just laying everything out. Because yeah, as reading it as like this, it does seem extremely linear, but I don't think that's the intention. And I think there's enough here where you can configure it to not be linear. Though this catacomb might be pretty linear. So you have the entrance, we have a side barrel chamber, we have a deep shaft, we have a guard post, we have a monument to a deity. And it's got some warriors in there. It's also got the kings and queens of fairy. Titania, the lady of summer and shaper of flesh, Mother Raven, queen of air and darkness, the winter lady, the horned king, the stag prince, lord of beasts and revels, and Oberon, the lord of the harvest, the green man. Oh, those are statues. Maybe put statues in there. Pete Giant says that they meant that each section has an initial state and then a qualifying order of requirements. I see. I don't mind that so much because I think the intent for me is probably that you're going to go in once and then have to figure things out, right? And there's the kind of puzzle of how you're going to deal with the demon. I think the one thing to your point is it seems like there's only one approach that works, and it's about sussing that out. Whereas what I would probably like more is if there were ingredients for different approaches, some of the ingredients are common so that you can, depending on who you run into and how you mix and match, there might be multiple ways to skin the cat. It doesn't seem like that part's done. So to your point is there's a linear solution, you're figuring it out and then you're implementing it, which isn't terrible. It's not like there haven't been adventures done where that's basically, you got to get the rod of 7 parts and put it together. So what do? You go around and get the 7 parts. And in some ways that's kind of like this is, here are the ingredients to make this thing. You need to banish the demons. So go get the things. But I think, which I'm recalling from, I think it was the Black Worm of Brandonsford, where it had the same kind of idea of different elements out there in the hex crawl part in the wilderness, but that you could, each one had their own angle, and then each one you kind of use different pieces so that, yeah, this person's telling you this is how they think you should do it, maybe, but you can get some bits of that, some bits of some of the other things, and or make your own solution. We don't have the sense yet that other solutions other than the one that they're mandating, would work, but we'll get there. So we have an ossuary, we have an ornate quarter, we have a fortified vault door with a stone golem, we have a vault, we have the prison entrance, we have the prison cells, more prison cells, a trophy hall, a central prison sanctum. Let's see, is the prison sanctum where there's this canal is here. Let's see, a man-sized glass egg where something writhes within. So if the party has taken over 10 days to confront Canal, the accumulated death and stolen wills free the demon Kyrninos, allowing it to join Canal in battle. Should the party have not slain both of the named men, Jerry or Frecky, one will be here to fight at the side of their war chief. Should the party use the prepared ritual branch from Fjolnir, it will banish the demon from the fight, but will not dispel the effects of the Black Woad or the named men's wolf form, leaving Canal and 4 Crow Brother warriors. The demon will possess the body of Fjolnir, who will be looking for the party upon their exit from the catacombs in hopes of slaying any survivors. This uses Fjolnir's stats. He will attempt to ambush the party 1d6 hours after they leave the dungeon. I see. So the beast or whatever was actually the demon. So Fjolnir's spell will go awry because instead of it will bind the demon to him, but not give him control. It will give the demon control. If the purified ritual branch is used or the wizard Fjolnir is already dead, the demon is banished in a burst of pure light, and any warriors lose all abilities granted by the Black Woad. The Northmen lose their shape-shifting abilities and damage resistance, while Kanal loses any magical abilities. That probably still means you need to kill them. But maybe you could argue that they're going to scatter and maybe only Kanal would fight to the death because that's all he has left. The party's managed to make it through in under 10 days. They confront Kanal and 4 warriors in the Sanctum. Should Kanal die during the fight, his death will break the binding on Cernunnos, unleashing the demon. That's interesting. That's a little bit cheap. Because if it's under 10 days, why would his death be the one to do it? I don't know. Maybe I like it. I don't know. There's got to be something. Because it is pushing that you can't just get there fast and upend. I mean, I see what they're trying to do here, right? So you can't just run in and fight. You have to have put the puzzle together. But it is, to Pete Giant's point, it is kind of a very linear puzzle. There's really only one solution. You have to go through and find all those parts. And I'm not sure in the state of it as now that for my comfort, there's enough of those parts around to kind of give a fighting chance for the party to figure it all out. And there's no sense of, well, if you can't figure out this solution, what else can you do? Is there another spell you could use? Is there a cleric in that town you could try to haul over here to do it? What else could you do? Could you just bum rush them and get there? Like, maybe. I would say instead of the warriors, instead of Kanal dying, breaking the binding, maybe it ends it, but that Cernunnos is still kind of there, drawing power. And they've got to figure out what to do. Otherwise, over time, just more deaths will happen in the area, just even from natural causes, hunting accidents, whatever. And Cernunnos will eventually be freed. So the party's left with this interesting kind of second part of, okay, now we have this egg, which I'm presuming you can't just break and kill. So how do we destroy it? Right? What would dispel magic do? What would remove curse do? Like, what would these things do? Other things. So I might like a different solution, and the solution of the egg still being there, but being clearly a present danger that's just been paused is just another thing that can lead into more fun. They could even then go back out and try to figure out this other. Fjolnir is still going to be, if he's alive, still going to be wanting to do that thing. These other elements are there, so they could take down Kanal and then try to go back and figure out the rest of it, and you can think about what other consequence there might be for them having taken, say, the very martial approach. But I probably like that a little bit better. And then we get a section on the enemies, which is great, and then an epilogue. Depending on how the party prepares for the final showdown with Cernunnos and Kanal Redhand, they may either banish the demon or set it free. If Kanal is killed before the demon is banished, that is entirely possible that Cernunnos will flee if he can see the chance, potentially becoming a recurring villain as the Beast of the Void looks for a new army to wage war on creation. In addition to whatever rewards in silver they have found, the party's deeds will certainly echo through the land. For helping the village of Crom, they will gain 1 point of renown as well as another point for slaying Kanal Redhand. Should they face and merely survive fighting the demon, they will gain 1 point of renown, but if they permanently return the monster to the void, they gain 2 points instead. Regardless of if the party has taken this mission on for Lord Hrolf Grimnir, he will likely be so impressed with their deeds that if the party wishes to put down roots, they may be placed in charge of the village as vassals of Lord Grimnir and given free rein to grow their new domain. A fortunate thing for this land to have new protectors, as other things lie in the vast forests of the north, and Cernunnos was not the only thing to lie buried in hidden deeps. Of course, should the worst come to pass and the demons survive, this will assuredly not be the last they see of the void-born monster. Cernunnos gains power from bloodshed and misery, growing stronger with each mortal life consumed. If free to rampage as it pleases, the demon gains an additional hit die for every 3 mortals it consumes, and its AC increases after every 2. An increase in hit dice gives it a +1 for each additional hit die, while saves are 16 minus half of the current hit dice rounded down. This increases until Cernunnos has reached a maximum of 13 hit dice and 25 armor class. Once the demon has regained his power, it has the following abilities. Then we get some abilities. And then, let's see, some more. Of course, it's entirely possible the demon is bound to the body of the hermit Fjolnir rather than immediately take vengeance. It will wait and plan. Now stuck in the body of a mortal, albeit a powerful wizard, the demon will try and summon more of its kind, eventually attacking the village to use the bloodshed and a terrible ritual to open a gateway to the unending void to establish a foothold in creation, requiring the call for more heroes to again put down this terrible menace. And then we get a note on entries, we get a note on the gem of brightness, and some suggested media. Wow. So the Northmen, Vinland Saga, Prose and Poetic Edda, the Volsung Cycle. Oh, there's a dungeon map, but no 13th Warrior, which you should watch 13th Warrior. Everybody should watch 13th Warrior. You out there, go watch the 13th Warrior. We do get a map of the dungeon. And it's got a, it's got a couple loops, but it's pretty linear. Got a loop over there. We have this loop, kind of this loop over here. But that's fine. And then, here we go. Here's the area map. See, there we go. I think V being the village, and then so we can see how everything's kind of scattered around. The only thing I don't like about this, I'm totally fine with the hand-drawn map. But man, you could make it less of a scribble. Because the hills and the forest kind of blend together a little bit. 2 mile hexes is interesting. That's bog. It's like I was telling me, hey, there are like just simple symbols, hex crawl symbols you could use that don't take you a lot of time to draw. Probably not much more than would be scribbling all that stuff in there. And would probably make things a lot easier to read. But cool. So there you go. So yeah, so see the design, clearly not linear. This is probably something that would have been nice to have at the beginning of the adventure, and maybe just put the key of what all these letters mean so you can easily just reference it. I like it. I mean, I think there's a lot of work that could be done, which I've gone through, but I think in terms of what it is, I think it delivers an interesting, as Terrence pointed out, it's got kind of a Morkborg or Morkburg or Morkburg or whatever vibe to it, kind of Scandinavian, a bit of kind of fairy. Pete Giant says, add Lady Hawk to the movie list. Yeah, Lady Hawk's a good one. Lady Hawk's another good one. It's got some interesting areas. It's got some interesting individuals. It takes kind of a classic trope of, you got the cultists, in this case, someone looking vengeance, trying to raise a demon. But I like how all these different pieces working together. My big thing is, and maybe because it's a first draft or it's done in time constraints for a game jam, is it feels very much focused on find this solution. One, the solution maybe requires multiple party members to lose their eyes to do, depending on how efficient they are with their questions. I'm not quite sure is fair. I don't really have a problem with having to make those kinds of bargains, but I'd want to give them more of a chance that if that's how you have to do it, and this seems to be the one way to, if you wanted to score 100 on this, basically, that's kind of what you have to do, then I'd want there to be more out there, as opposed to them potentially getting there, losing multiple eyes, asking questions that might be interesting to them, not understanding the question they need to ask, and then you've got like a whole party of one-eyed men. And I would like some just different solutions. Have some of these folks that are intelligent, that are out there, that are positioned around that map, let them have some different things. I kind of question a little bit some of these fae and other things that are clearly powerful, or like, I know you can talk to the dryad, you can talk to these things, but you have a demon here who, if this guy raises his demon, an assault and all creation, all these creatures you think would be pretty much aligned to, we got to destroy it. So why aren't they, what's preventing them from doing more? Or, what's holding back? Or like with Fjolnir, he has his own angle. Like, he wants to stop it in his own way, but stop and take advantage of it. I'd like to see a little bit more of these other intelligent creatures who clearly have to be seeing what's going on, saying, okay, I want to stop it, but I want this to happen first. Or maybe I'm hoping that, let's say the Dryad, I'd like the humans to wipe each other out. So I'm kind of hoping I can get the party to do these things. So that the village fights the Crow brothers, they wipe each other out, and then the forest is mine. Maybe that's what the Treant wants. Or maybe the Treant, because he's so twisted, is totally down, is in a sense allied with the Crow brothers just because he doesn't care. Death is his thing now. I don't know, but it would be nice to kind of see some of that. But all in all, I think it's a fun adventure with some meat on it, and you could take this and tweak it up, change it up. And this was on the Forest of Whispers. Oh, I forgot. I didn't put this in the blog. Well, this is the on the Forest of Whispers blog. It's called Spears. Stop that keyboard. Spears of the Northmen. I'll pop that, show it on stream. Get the full thing. I will try to link this into the show notes later on so you can see it. And I think we're at the top of the hour, so we were done. So glad to be back. Glad to get off the schneid, so to speak. We'd been a couple of weeks where, for various things, Fridays, and thus the Reddit roundups hadn't happened. Before I let everybody go, before I go, you guys can leave whenever you wish. I was thinking about expanding things a little bit, and you can let me know if this appeals to you or not. But so, with these roundups, I've just been doing kind of OSR stuff, which is it's a good mix of people looking for kind of GM advice and then also OSR, mechanics, system advice. I do kind of like to read through the DM's Academy, which is much more 5th edition focused, definitely 5th edition focused by default, but they have a lot more questions and interesting commentary on more of the building adventures and working on different elements in the adventure, as opposed to, I think in OSR, you get a lot more of a focus on the mechanics, whereas there, I think you get a lot more focus on the frameworks, adventure frameworks, and situation frameworks, and things like that, which I also think is interesting. One of the things I've been pondering is, would it be useful to combine those and pull in? Do we just happy with just doing the stuff from the OSR Reddit? Would it be good to do as another stream, looking at some of the DM's Academy stuff? And I would, of course, filter out things that are basically just 5th edition and kind of work on stuff that's kind of system agnostic, if you will, more on the sort of philosophy of things and those things that aren't mechanical questions, if you will. Should I combine it with the OSR roundup, and just because I already have basically a custom Reddit list that has basically a few different subreddits kind of put together. So let me know in the comments. Let me know wherever you find me if you like it the way it is. If you think it would be useful to bring in some other elements for some different kind of related subreddits, or if something I should do on another day, or maybe do once a month or something, just kind of do something different and just kind of access some different stuff, get some different kind of things going on. Just widen the net, if you will. Pete Giant says, go for it. Well, I just might. Anyhow, that's all I've got. Have a great weekend if you're in here watching or listening to this over the next day or so. Otherwise, have a great whenever you end up watching or listening to it. If you give a thumbs up on your way out, that would be awesome. If you find yourself watching this or listening to this and you're not subscribed and you think this is cool, go ahead and subscribe. That would be awesome. Otherwise, game on, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.